Hello everyone, as promised, this is the ranking video of the films set in the snowy and icy location. A lot of them are at the Antarctic or Alaska, Canada, places like that. I'll talk about them when I get to them if I know where they're set. I did try and wear this to sort of be on theme, but I'm not going to lie, ironically the day I'm recording this, it's quite hot and sunny in the UK for September. A couple of days ago it was quite cold and pouring down with thunder, so should have done it then. But yeah, there was a couple of films I did have to sort of rewatch so I could rank them properly. I'm going to take this off because, yeah, I was hoping to wear it for the video, but yeah, I'm absolutely sweating with this thing on, but at least you got to see it for a few minutes. Can't say I didn't try and put it on there for now. Can't say I didn't try and dress up for the video. Yeah, spoiling than that. Even when it is winter, I get too hot wearing that coat, a bit too warm. Yeah, I'll get on with it. I don't think there's. Oh yeah, a few other caveats actually. Obviously, I've got films like Home Alone 1 and 2, White Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life. A few that are set in snow, but they're Christmas films, so I'm not going to include the Christmas films. Yeah, they are set in that location, but I would do a separate ranking for Christmas films, maybe. I enjoy some Christmas films, but I'm not the biggest lover of Christmas films, so yeah, I don't know if I'll bother ranking them. Probably don't even know if I've even got 10 Christmas films other than the obvious ones like Home Alone 1 and 2. Yeah, one I haven't actually watched yet. Let me know in the comments. A bit late now, but maybe you could do your own ranking. Maybe not all the ones I've got, but your top 5 or so. But yeah, you could say where you would rank Snowpiercer. Then you could see the Bong Joon-ho set up there. I'm pretty sure Snowpiercer. I mean, should tell you by the title, Snowpiercer. Assuming it's set in the snow, but I've not watched it. I thought it was a series on like Netflix or something a while ago. I'm not sure if the series came out before or after the film by Bong Joon-ho, who's a Korean director. Let me know if you know more fact. Yeah, I mean, it's called Snowpiercer, but for all I know, it could just be completely set in the interior of a train, and you never ever see the outside, or they don't go outside. I'm not sure, but haven't watched it, so I haven't included it. Right, I'll get on with it. I've not counted these, but it looks about 20 or so to rank. So I'm starting with the worst ones. If you see me talk about this a while ago, I think I gave it a 2 or 3 out of 10 on the recent watches, so you probably know I didn't get on with it too well. Is Ice Sharks. Guess the only thing, the main, what should I say, the most frosty thing about this is probably the reception it got upon release. It is set in the ice and snow, but it doesn't really make for a good location. It's not like some films I'll talk about later, especially one where whilst you're watching it, you really feel the ice and the snow and you're sort of sat at home freezing, even if it's summer. Yeah, with this, it kind of looked like CG ice, should I say? CGI ice and snow. Can't really remember much about it. Special effects were bad. The acting, I think I said in this Anatomic Shark, maybe 1 or 2 years ago when you get these kind of real low-budget B movies, the acting and stuff would be really badly made in general, but at least they'd go there with some creatures. You know, they say they had a budget of £20, they'd spend £10 on the actors and then £10 on the effects and the creatures. Whereas, yeah, in a few of these I've seen the acting wasn't too bad. You know, I'm not saying it's Oscar nominations, but yeah, the acting wasn't awful. I've seen way worse B movie. I've even seen some, you know, I wouldn't say blockbusters, but major release films with worse acting than this. But yeah, you know, I think most people go into this knowing it's going to be crappy and they want to see the creature and all the effects. And yeah, no one's going to go in and say Sharknado coming out moaning, saying, oh, I thought the acting would be really good. I didn't care about special effect. You know, everybody wants to see an ice shark. They want to see carnage happening. Didn't really happen in this. They focused on the spending the budget on actors. And yeah, it wasn't, I mean, it was boring and crap as you would expect from this, but could have been worse. But yeah, that's my bottom one. I guess I'll put them over this side because there's too many to put on a shelf, so I'm actually lifting them up off the floor. Next one, actually, I was going to have that. Yeah, I will put this. I'll explain when I get to the next one. But yeah, I swapped the order on these, just because the book of this is really good, one of Stephen King's better books, not a favourite by him, and the cast is absolutely stacked, but the film just isn't very good. It's Dreamcatcher. So yeah, you've got Morgan Freeman, Thomas Jane, Jason Lee, Damian Lewis, Timothy Olyphant, Tom Sizemore, Donnie Wahlberg, directed by Lawrence Kasdan. 128 minutes, just over 2 hours. Yeah, I've not seen it in quite a while, but yeah, I found it disappointing. I know a few people I've spoke to since who have watched it more recently found it disappointing. I think it's not really a great adaptation of the Stephen King book, but yeah, quite disappointing as a film. Just seems a bit of a long, what's the word? Disorganized mess. It's not terribly made. It's a lot better made than Ice Sharks, but it just, yeah, I think if you went into this and it was just called Dreamcatcher, it didn't have this stellar cast and wasn't based on a book by Stephen King, maybe people wouldn't dislike it as much. Probably still be like a 6 out of 10. But yeah, as far as, if you know the story, you're like, oh, great cast, written by Stephen King, Alien in the Snow, this has got to be nailed on. It's not. So I did have this next, but I thought Dreamcatcher was a bit more egregious because, yeah, that one, very disappointing. Whereas this wasn't badly made, it just was quite boring and nothing really happened. Abandoned. Yeah, I hadn't really heard of this, but years ago, I think I was looking on Amazon or something and came across it and looked interesting. And yeah, at the time I was looking for films set in the ice and snow. Obviously, I've got more since, and some that have probably come out since. This was 2013. Yeah, it wasn't badly made. It wasn't like anything in it that stood out as terrible. It just, not really much happened, and they kind of had a good sort of thriller plot, and didn't really utilise it. Yeah, there was never any much tension. Yeah, it was kind of boring. It wasn't badly made. It did feel a bit like daytime TV. What do they have in America? Is it Hallmark? I think the channel's called. Maybe that's a greeting card, but those kind of TV dramas where the acting and that ain't the greatest level. Yeah, kind of felt like that. Can't remember too much about it. Set in the Rocky Mountains. I guess that's Colorado. I guess Colorado's icy, or maybe in certain seasons. Abandoned. Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. Don't get this next one mixed up. I'm not going to spoil it, but you can probably tell what my top one's going to be, or at least it'll be high in the list. But this is the prequel of The Thing. So yeah, the most disappointing thing, no pun intended, about this is they just go wacky with the CGI. It's like you might get away with some CGI in modern films if the predecessor or what you were sort of not basing this on, but what inspired you to make this didn't have the best practical effects of all time, in my opinion. Still stand up and probably is never going to be beaten by Bob Bottin. So yeah, if this was called Alien on Base or something, then maybe it wouldn't got so maligned. But yeah, it's not just not great in a film in its own right. It's not great canon to the Thing saga, should I say. And yeah, CGI in this was bad. It was like, CGI was heavy, but it was passable. Then maybe people wouldn't have minded. But yeah, I think apparently they did start making all special practical effects for this. Got all the effects done, made all the creatures. I think they even filmed it, and then they scrapped it and went CGI. I don't know really why, but if anyone who was making this respects the source material, then you've got to know that. Biggest selling point, obviously, it's a brilliant film. You've got a lot of drama, a lot of suspense in that. In the original, The Thing, or should I say John Carpenter's The Thing. I've still not got round to watching Thing from Another Planet. Is it called? The Thing from Another World. But I think even in that, it plays on, obviously it's got special effects. I guess that was set in the 1951, so they weren't CGI then, thankfully. But yeah, that's the most sort of biggest problem to me with this. Just heavy on CGI, and the CGI ain't good. Kind of interesting. Obviously, when you first start watching The Thing and the helicopter's chasing the dog through the snow, and you've got that like pounding synthetic soundtrack, great intro to the film. You see the sort of Norwegian base camp, and then obviously it's not really a spoiler to say their base camp has been infected by the Thing. This tells a story of what happened before, back in the Norwegian base camp. So it should have been really interesting, showing what happened before it goes on to where we pick up the story with Kurt Russell's character, MacReady, and that. But yeah, it wasn't really very satisfying showing what had gone before. I mean, I think sometimes a story's better. Just don't always have to have the story showing the beginning, middle, and end. I mean, the middle and end, fair enough, but sometimes you can just have a insular story where you're like, something's been going on 100 years, but we're just showing 2 years of a story. Didn't really need to go back and show that. The only thing I would say is quite an interesting idea they had in this is to be able to understand who is the thing, unlike the first one where they do like the copper wire blood test and things. They basically said that the thing wouldn't be able to replicate fillings. So if someone had fillings, you'd be able to check, and they're basically their fillings would have like fallen out. That was quite an interesting idea, but yeah, disappointing. Hard for me to ever watch it as a film in its own right and judge it on how well it's made when it's a prequel to my favourite film ever, but I think even as a standalone film, it's just not that well made. Then you've got Dead Snow. I think this is it German. Can't actually see Norwegian. Oh yeah, so Norwegian film. I think there's like 2 or 3 sequels to this. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's got some quite brutal moments. Basically, a load of people in the snow being attacked by Nazi zombies. I think this may be the original one to do Nazi zombies, but everybody's done it since, and maybe some better. Don't know what that means. Eins, why you will die, I guess. Probably die of low budget, lack of creativity. If you watch, yeah, it wasn't awful, but I'm not gonna lie, I've watched it probably 10 years ago, and I can't remember anything about it other than a scene near the start in like a cottage when another human like headbutts someone in the face or something. That's all I can really remember. So I'm not saying it's terrible, but if you've watched the film and it's made no impact on you whatsoever and you can't remember anything about it, then it's probably not a good sign. So yeah, I'm not saying it's like the worst, but it is ranked down here. Next, this is an entertaining film, but it's not the best made, is The Day After Tomorrow, filmed by Roland Emmerich. Yeah, it looks good on the setting and things. Obviously, it's like inclement weather, nightmare hazard resets the globe, and these people have to survive. I mean, yeah, it's big budget. It's Roland Emmerich, pretty sure does Godzilla. Is it 98? Much prefer that to this. Yeah, it's not a bad film by any means. Quite an early role for Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, not saying it's bad. I just prefer these other ones that we've got coming next. Day After Tomorrow. This one, a bit better, quite good tension, quite original for a slasher, is Cold Prey, which I think is Norwegian again. So yeah, the Norwegians love their icy locations and climates. I guess, don't know whether Norway, some of these can be set up in mountains where it's going to be snowy all year round. Some of them are set in places where it's always snowy. Some, I'll talk about them as we get to them, or have got a bit more specific kind of date to it and things. But yeah, I will talk about that. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Basically, it's a horror. I mean, a lot of these are horrors. I've not tried to choose horror set in the snow. There are some, I've showed a few like The Day After Tomorrow, that are kind of dramas and things. But yeah, I guess maybe horrors just lend themselves well to a snowy, icy location. Yeah, this has got a lot of tension. Don't know if many people would have heard of this. I'll read the back of it quickly. Following a gruesome accident, 5 friends' idyllic snowboarding expedition to the Jotunheimen Mountains takes a turn for the eerie when they are forced to take shelter from a ravaging storm in an abandoned ski lodge. Empty and silent, the cavernous lodge seems deserted, but there are secrets here. These secrets are long buried, thought forgotten, and very, very dangerous. Before the night is out, those who survive will have discovered the true meaning of terror and looked into the very face of evil. In the classic tradition of seminal horror films like Wolf Creek, Halloween, and My Bloody Valentine, Cold Prey is a tense, stylish, and viciously unnerving journey into a frozen nightmare. Yeah, it was well made, but it's one I've watched probably only like 8 years ago, so not too long, but can't remember too much about it. I remembered enjoying it, but there's certain films, even if there's only 1 or 2 scenes you're seeing it, which will make an impression on you forever, if not for a long time, whereas I think Angelo from the Pang film, shout out to Angelo, I'll link anyone I mentioned down below in the the description. I think he recommended one called Frozen, not the one with Elsa and Anya, are they called? Olaf the Snowman. But think it's kind of similar to this. I think it's Norwegian as well, and it's set in the snow. I'm pretty sure it's where people get stuck in a a chairlift, like going up the hill, and they're stuck in there all night. And then there's wolves and things. Let me know if I'm correct, Angelo. I've heard good things about that, but I've not seen it. This one, people might be surprised it's this low on my list, but I think it's a well-made film. But I just don't love it as a film. Just let the right one in. Yeah, it's well made. It's kind of, when it first came out, it was quite like transcendental. Is that the word? But yeah, I just don't find it that entertaining. I won't go into it too much, but a lot of people have criticised this and the director for being quite heavy on child sexuality and things. I mean, it says that, but without spoiling it, the vampire girl is in the body of a child, but she's like 400 years old or something. But yeah, it got a bit of controversy over like some of the sort of child relationships and things. It's really well made, and it is an original horror. And when it was, everyone was like raving about it, so I went and watched it. And yeah, I thought it was good, but it's not one I ever feel the need to go back to. I've not seen Let Me In. I think it's called the American remake. I heard a lot of people say it's actually more entertaining. So yeah, this one's not really getting ranked here for technical adroitness of the film. It's just for my enjoyments. Yeah, these are my favourites, not what I would class as the best. But yeah, good film, but just don't love it. Probably get some hate in the comments. I remember about a year ago, the first troll comment I ever had was when I did a horror ranking, and then someone commented saying, what do you know about anything if you don't think Let the Right One In's top? So I think I just commented saying, I know it's my opinion and yours is different, but to me, it's not even a horror film, mate, so get over it. This one I actually think is quite underrated. Let me know if you know of this one, but Wind Chill with Emily Blunt, Ashton Holmes, Martin Donovan, music by Clint Mansell, directed by Gregory Jacobs. Yeah, it's a very obviously it's in the snow and that, but a lot of the film is set in the car, but they really utilise the relationship and the dialogue and the tension in the car and things really well to make it interesting. The tension, it is quite creepy. Yeah, they really utilise a sort of snowy location. I can't sort of say too much, but kind of, well, it's not really a spoiler because it's ambiguous, but they sort of start seeing ghosts and things outside the car, and you'll find out whether it's really ghosts or it's people tracking them. Yeah, I won't say too much about that, but yeah, I think it's the first film I ever seen with Emily Blunt. Now she's gone on to bigger things, but this was 2007. Probably got it not long after that. So yeah, going on like, by the time I got it, let's say 16 years, I first got this. Yeah, Emily Blunt's been in a lot of things. I think she's married to John Krasinski now, isn't she? Jim from The Office, American Office. Yeah, it's on Fright Night Films. I think they do quite a bit on this label. I've not really ever tried to collect it, but yeah, some people might find it slow. It's not really a sweeping epic. You know, they basically drive in. I think they're driving through the snow or on roads that aren't snowy, and then they basically, I think they hit into a snowdrift, run out of petrol, whatever. They're stuck in the car trying to survive, and then it sort of their relationship develops. Quite good character arc where the sort of woman, when it starts, she's like really dismissive of the guy, and then she sort of has to lean on him for help, but also, I guess, being in that sort of challenging situation probably brings people closer together. But yeah, if you haven't seen that and you're into your sort of slower burn, insular kind of horrors, and yeah, I would recommend Wind Chill. I think that's quite an underrated one. This one is a series rather than actually, I will rank this a bit higher. I did put this in here, but thinking of it, yeah, not too well. I'll show it now. Just not too much of it is set in the snow. I can't say all of it is, and it is a TV series, so this one may be a bit of an honourable mention, but I didn't want to show it first an honourable mention and make it out like it was worse than Ice Sharks or something. Is The Chronicles of Narnia on DVD. This is the one that was originally on BBC, I think, or was it ITV? Yeah, BBC from 1998 to 1990. Remember this airing when I was a kid. Yeah, I think some of the parts later, obviously, they're like indoors and it goes to like forests and that, but yeah, for me as a kid, I could just always remember like the first part of this with the Ice Queen in the snow. There she is. Yeah, I think this has come out on 4K now, like the whole collector's set. I think on the TV I had seen is it The Voyage of the Dawn Treader and Prince Caspian, maybe? I think there's 7 books, The Silver Chair. There's like 7 or 8 books in the actual Chronicles of Narnia, but I think there was only 3 parts to this series. I have seen them, but I don't own them. But yeah, I probably will upgrade. I think it was Stuart George brought it to our attention in the Movie Loons group that this is getting 4K release in like a big set. So yeah, we'll eventually get it. But yeah, for when this sort of the first hour or so of this, really good sort of icy location with like Mr. Beaver, and yeah, this witch looks really good. She's a real evil cow, especially what they do to Aslan. I won't give too many spoilers. This one, good film. Great location. The sort of all the ice and stuff in it, snow, should I say, looks really good. I don't know if it'll show me any pictures in here of the Well, let me get on and show it. I have only seen this once. I am due a rewatch of this. Is Crimson Peak. So it's a Guillermo del Toro film. Pretty sure it's got Loki. What's his name? Tom Hiddleston. Maybe this has got Emily Blunt as well. Obviously, when it's in this kind of special collector's edition, I'm struggling to find actual information on the film. As you can see, it's snowy. Yeah, the house in this, the location, the bit when there's all like red clay outside, looks really good. It is a well-made film. Some of the ghosts, the CGI and that don't look too bad on them, but I would say it's a kind of bit more of an entry-level sort of Addams Family, The Burbs style. Maybe if you've got kids that you're trying to get into like horror without scaring them too much, maybe show them this before you show them Salo or a Serbian film, Crimson Peak. But yeah, I only watched it once, did enjoy it, and yeah, the snow and that looks really good in that. Let me know if you can think of that lady's name. I did show her on the poster. This one, yeah, I'm not going to say it's a better made film than Crimson Peak, but I enjoy it more. A bit cheesy, but some classic lines, and it really does go there in the snow setting, as you can probably tell by the title, Cliffhanger. Stallone. I think it's directed by Rennie Harlin. It's quite good for a Rennie Harlin film. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit cheesy and it's not brilliantly made, but if you want action where it's not only set in ice and snow, but, you know, hanging off of cliffs, using ice picks, climbing, then it gives you all of that. John Lithgow, really good as a villain. What's this guy's name? Michael Rooker, another good villain. Yeah, I enjoy this. Only recently sort of bought this. I've seen it on TV quite a few times, but yeah, weird that it just says "Hang On" so big on the front. Maybe that was a another title, pseudonym or something in America or somewhere. Whereas, yeah, I've always known it as Cliffhanger. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy fun, bit like a lot of Stallone's films, really. I'm a big fan of Stallone. I know Angelo is. So even if there's films that aren't great by Stallone, I can still really get some enjoyment out of them, whereas some other people just seem to hate on them. But yeah, I think Stallone is a good actor, and if I had to rank in his sort of top 5, obviously outside of like First Blood, Rocky, then yeah, I think Cliffhanger would be up there in my top 5 or 10. Next, we're on to another horror, is 30 Days of Night. So starring Melissa George and Josh Hartnett. Both really good in this. Yeah, the vampires in this look really evil and intense. You can probably see some of them. They've got like really sharp fangs. When I was talking earlier a bit about like the locations, that maybe one of them. Location I talk about later was a bit more. What's the word? Set around a certain time of year. So yeah, this is basically set in Barrow, Alaska, a remote isolated town that is plunged into a state of complete darkness for 30 days every winter. I think that really does happen. I think there is somewhere near the Northern Lights, near the Arctic Circle, where it will be bright sunlight for like 30 days straight, whereas this is dark. But yeah, it kind of plays really cleverly on this town, sort of snowy settlement, goes into darkness in the ice and snow. Most people leave the town, but those that are left there kind of have to fend for themselves and obviously know what they're letting themselves in for, staying there for 30 days. And then the vampires kind of prey on that, hear about it, and then they think not only is people isolated, but it's darkness, there's no sunlight to scare us. So yeah, really clever setup. And one of the better vampire films. I'm not saying this is up there with Fright Night, or even Blade and things, but yeah, I'd probably put it top 5 vampire films. Kind of got some action elements and gore, contains strong bloody violence and horror. 18. Yeah, the blood in this, should I say, looks really good on the snow. But when they're like hiding up in the attic of a house and that, really tense. Yeah, it's a good film. 30 Days of Night. I think there's a sequel which I've never seen. This was one I had to hold up the video for a little bit because I hadn't watched it and I did want to include it. Did mention the other day in another video that I was quite impressed with this. Is Kate Beckinsale in Whiteout? Not just because it's got Kate Beckinsale in it. Good actress and she's good looking, but I think she's what's the word? Distinguished, is that the word? Classy, yeah, that's the word I'm going for. You know, there's a lot of actresses that actresses I think are attractive, say like Mia Goth, but I wouldn't say they're really oozing class and stoicism, is that the word, like Kate Beckinsale does. But yeah, it's a good thriller set in Antarctica, the most isolated landmass on Earth. 6 million square miles of ice, 6 months of darkness. Oh, I didn't realise that. I don't think it is all set in the dark in this, or if it is, it's lit in a way I didn't really realise. Minus 120 degrees and winds at 100 miles per hour. Yeah, I guess they could have just set it up to be like a thriller in the snow, but it's a bit of like a crime mystery drama, cat and mouse, things going back and forth, bit of a twist in things. But yeah, location really good, quite a well-made film. Yeah, as far as Kate Beckinsale films go, not sure if it's more as iconic as her role in I'm having a mental block. What's the one where werewolves and vampires are fighting? I'll remember it in a minute. It's definitely better than Stonehurst Asylum. It's annoying me now. I can't think of the I'll remember in a bit. If I don't, then comment down below. Nearly had it then. You know, the one with the Underworld, that's it. Yeah, maybe she's better in this than the Underworld. She's a bit older in this than in the Underworld films. But yeah, I would recommend that. Quite a good film, Whiteout. Next, this is a really icy one, is Alive. So this is based on a true story. Not sure how much they took artistic license with the story and changed it, but Alive, we're directed by Frank Marshall, starring Ethan Hawke, Vincent Spano, Josh Hamilton, music by James Newton Howard. Yeah, I think it's quite an early role for Ethan Hawke. I actually thought this was like an 80s film or so when I used to watch it as a kid. I think we've had it tape recorded, or it used to be on TV a lot. But yeah, I always thought it was like 80s, it felt like. It's actually only 1993. But yeah, probably still quite an early role for Ethan Hawke. I won't read all the back, but basically, I think they're a Argentinian. Yeah, Uruguayan. It says rugby team. I always thought they were like an American football team. But basically, they're in an aeroplane going over the Andes. Not really a spoiler to say. There's a crash. The effects are really good where the tail gets ripped off. People in their seat are getting like pulled out of the plane by gravity. They're basically all stranded in the mountains in the snow and ice. They find the like fuselage, the chassis, whatever you call it, of the aeroplane, and they kind of try to make a shelter in it. Obviously, they find some first aid kits, some food. They're surviving. There's like avalanches. There's a bit when the whole sort of floor looks sturdy and it caves in. There's lots of peril, but the main sort of bit is trapped with no food for so long. Will they have to eat each other to survive? There's a bit of a theme of cannibalism, but done in quite a mild way. It's no cannibal holocaust kind of level cannibalism. But yeah, I guess I remember when I first watched this as a kid, I remember putting myself in that position and thinking, if you were in a position where it was life or death, would you be able to eat human meat to survive? I kind of asked that question. I won't say what the answer is and kind of spoil it. Next, we've got one I've only recently watched on 4K, is Everest. So yeah, it looks really good, really goes in quite strong on the mountaineering side. Well-made film, brilliant picture, the 4K looks amazing. I wouldn't say I found it unsatisfying at all. I think I gave it like an 8 or so, but yeah, I'd say maybe Alive kind of has a bit more of a feel of like the peril of being on the mountains. I think I said in documentaries and things about like K1 or, you know, Summit in Everest, the Himalayas kind of documentaries, that it goes there more with the actual how hard it is to go up Everest, and that, you know, when people die, they're basically just left on the trail because you can't get them back down. People just throw in rubbish and leave intent. Apparently it's wrecked there. Humans have just absolutely trashed the side of the mountain. And I think the Sherpas and I think there's two sides. You can go up like the K2 side in the Himalayas, or the other side might be the can't think what it's called. Tibet, yeah, the Tibetan side. I think one side you can't even go up now because the indigenous people, they see it as like a religious mountain, and these people are just going up trashing it and stuff. So they kind of had enough of it. But yeah, an entertaining film. I kind of found it a bit disappointing. Jake Gyllenhaal wanted it as much as I thought. Keira Knightley, I think I said in a review, a few of them kind of stay at their like base camp rather than really go up. So they communicate and contact them when they need help, but they're not always in the thick of the action. But yeah, best thing about this really is how good it looks on 4K. But yeah, over halfway up the list, I not actually counted them, but probably like 6th or 7th. So quite high rating. This one, I mean, I guess I technically should have also been able to show the original to this, which I've not actually watched. So I'll show this remake. It's Nosferatu. So there's a bit more going on in it than just the sort of snowy setting. Unlike some, Everest or Alive, even Whiteout, that really dial in on that snowy setting and use a location as like a main character to the film. This is just set in a snowy location that happens to be snowy. But then we go in on the isolation. The Count Olaf's castle is kind of more the imposing character than the actual ice and snow location. But yeah, for a first time watch, really enjoyed this. Well made, great atmosphere, good acting, a few sort of quite shocking, gory bits. I always say it, but a bit with a pigeon. Yeah, maybe my favourite Robert Eggers film now. I have to go back and watch The Witch again, but I found that quite slow. Yeah, really good, as you can see on the background. Yeah, it does go into the icy location, but it's more about what's going on in the icy location than the icy location creating the story, if you know what I mean. It's not like, he goes there to take snow samples and then it's like, oh, actually, whilst I'm digging the permafrost to see how deep it is, I happen to find a castle similar to Transylvania. It is more about, obviously, the story of Nosferatu. But yeah, really enjoyed that. One of the better films I've seen. I think I've seen it this year, but I think it was out. I think, was it just after Christmas? I think Roy Movies, Roy Barrett, did say he's seen it maybe New Year's Day or so. I think it was very early on in the year, but it was this year technically. Here's the other one. I had to hold off the video to watch this. I had watched it before, I think about 16 years ago, however long it came out, couldn't really remember it, so gave it a rewatch. It's Trans-Siberian. Again, talking of Roy, this is one Roy, I think he's mentioned it before in the past, but when I did the video, he put a comment, the same as Angelo and a few people, not so much recommending, but shouting out some set in a nice snow location that maybe I've overlooked or that I could include. Yeah, I remembered enjoying it, but hadn't seen it recent enough to really know where to rank it. I would say I don't prefer it. If I had to do a ranking of the Brad Anderson films I've seen, Machinist would be top. Actually, Machinist and Session 9, very hard to separate, but they'd be 1 and 2 in some variation, and then this would be third, and then Vanishing on 4th Street, is it called? I can't remember. It wasn't a great film. It's got Hayden Christensen in. Careful you don't touch him because you might get splinters. He's that wooden. Not as bad in this, but he's very wooden in Revenge of the Sith, is it called? Yeah, it's good. Sort of set on a train, set in a snowy location. Great cast. Woody Harrelson, Emily Mortimer, Kate Mara, Eduardo Noriega with Thomas Kretschmann and Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley not in it too much, but when he is, he's very good. Plays quite a good Russian kind of accent. Yeah, I think he's meant to be Russian. Well, Siberian, but kind of is Russian. Province within Russia, I think. Yeah, really good, well made, good cinematography. What you'd expect from a Brad Anderson film. Good sort of thriller. It's a few sort of twists. I can't really go too much into it. A few things it unfolds how you're not in a way you're not expecting it, should I say? But sort of an hour or more in, there's kind of a bit of a reveal. Not really like a spoiler, no Bruce Willis has been dead all along kind of thing, but it has got a bit of a interesting reveal that I didn't really see coming. But yeah, it's a bit more drama, showing the relations between these characters, but it's got a thriller where, it's got some action and without going into it too much, kind of killings and things. But yeah, quite enjoy that one, Trans-Siberian. I'm glad to give that one a rewatch. This next one, don't know if I prefer this to the original Batman with Jack Nicholson playing the Joker, but that's not a very snowy, icy film, whereas Batman Returns is. So yeah, I remember when I first watched this, I think it must have been Christmas Eve. I mean, it came out in 92, depending on when, yeah, it was probably 92 I watched this. So I'd have been like 8 years old, Christmas Eve, and not only is it quite dark, and I remember thinking like, wow, they went there, like, bit when the penguin bites the guy's nose in the department store, is it? And then, what's he called? Plays Matt, Christopher Walken as Matt Shrek's a right git. But yeah, I just liked, it's kind of Christmas film, but very dark, but still set at Christmas with the big like Christmas tree in Times Square that Max Shrek falls into, I think. Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, directed by Tim Burton. Yeah, it's maybe my favourite Tim Burton film. When I say favourite, like I said, I'm not saying it's a better made film than the original Batman. Batman would have been above this if it was set in Alaska or something, but it's not. Whereas, yeah, this is a really icy Christmas, pretty gothic. I think this is kind of the what's the word? The archetype for sort of what Tim Burton would go on to be known for. So, you know, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, he had a kind of certain style, but yeah, for me, this really encapsulates Tim Burton's style. Probably the best of a bit of darkness, a bit of gothicness, a bit of sort of comedy. But yeah, big fan of Batman Returns. This one is set in the snow, and the reason the film sort of takes place is because James Caan is a writer who's driving, goes off the road into a snowdrift. You could say he's lucky to be saved and found by Kathy Bates' character, but sure everybody's seen it, but I won't spoil it. But basically, she's a super fan, rescues him from the car, takes her into her house and nurses him back to health. It's not really a spoiler to say, once he's almost better, she doesn't want him to leave. She wants him to stay there. Brilliant acting from both of them, but especially Kathy Bates plays a brilliant role. Just see if it tells you her actual name in it, because I'm struggling. Annie Wilkes, that's it. But yeah, her dialogue, what's it she calls him, like Mr. Man or something. Some really tense scenes, the bit when he's out of his chair around the house and then she's coming back and he's trying to get back in time. And then the bit when he's knocked something off and you're like, will she notice this there? The hobbling scene is all I'm going to say. Yeah, I remember when I seen that as a kid, kind of one of the most disturbing scenes I'd seen and still holds up nowadays. Yeah, it's not always showing the snow. You know, sometimes he's in the house and you can't sort of see out the windows, but when he does look out the windows and things, it's all snowed. They're kind of isolated. She's saying she's ringing for help, but the phone lines are down, or she's rung and help is coming. I won't tell you whether it does or not, but yeah, as far as thrillers go, one of my favourite thrillers ever. Not too heavy on the snowy scene, but I thought I'd include it because if it wasn't for the snow he's driving through, the whole plot would have never taken place. Sure, everybody knows Misery. Again, I know Angelo picked up Misery recently, and I think it's a rewatch in a long time since he was a kid, so be interesting to know what you think of that one, Angelo. This is one of my favourite films of the last 20 years. Not many I've seen other than like Parasite, 12 Angry Men, even though it's old, I've only seen it recently. Unbreakable, you know, there's some films I've watched in the last few years that just made a massive impression on me. I had seen this once when it first came out back in 2015, so 10 years ago. Wow, that went fast. And did enjoy it. I think the first watch, you kind of get caught up in like the survival story, and it's quite painful to watch his struggle. Whereas when I watched it the second time, I was focusing more on the cinematography, the acting. I'll get on and show you it. Is The Revenant, Leonardo DiCaprio. So earlier when I mentioned there's a film that when you're watching it, you just feel like icy cold, and the location really drives into your bones, should I say. And yes, this one, The Revenant, really well made film, kind of a sweeping epic. I'd say there's only really Dances with Wolves, Braveheart, Last of the Mohicans, and this. Probably others out there, but for me, those four are like what I would class as sweeping, kind of majestic epics, big films, amazing locations, showing like brilliant vistas. Slow, but stuff happens. This was never boring, even though it's 149 minutes, so over 2.5 hours. Really good villain played by Tom Hardy. But yeah, best performance, I think, from DiCaprio. If you're not a massive fan of DiCaprio's dialogue and things, he doesn't really say much in this other than groaning and ow and in pain. The bear scene, obviously really famous. There's a few, I think I spoke about this before when I showed it on recent watches. I think I gave it like a 9 or 10, but it's a few scenes where I was like, how did they shoot that? How logistically did they set it up and film it? Like sort of going into it, there's a bit when these Native Americans see him and he's in this kind of shallow water wearing this like huge bear fur, and they're trying to shoot him with arrows, and he's just sort of hustling backwards on his hands and knees. And I was like, how did they actually shoot that scene? Like, where did they shoot it from? Because it looks like the camera's from, maybe the camera's on a big boom. I don't know. I'm not a cinematographer, but yeah, when films kind of make me think like, how did they actually set up this shot? Then I find that impressive. Yeah, good music, just an absolute epic. Really makes you feel cold. It's directed by Alejandro G. Inarritu. I think maybe did Gravity as well. Let me know if I'm wrong. But yeah, big fan of this. I call it a winter western, but yeah, one of my favourite westerns, although I've not seen too many. But yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio, not only good acting, but yeah, he did suffer, not just his character, you know, where he's being attacked by a bear and that, but when they're like, can you just sit in this icy cold water for a few hours until we get the take right, sitting in blizzards, yeah, he must have really suffered for the role. This one, again, isn't as heavy on the ice and snow setting as, say, Alive, or Everest, or even Whiteout, but it is a big character of the film, and for me, it's the reason they get basically stranded in the Overlook Hotel, and they're isolated, and I think when he takes a job, they do kind of say, you know, you all get snowed in, any problem with cabin fever, driving you into cabin fever, sorry, and Jack Nicholson's character's like, no, I'll be fine. He's not. It's The Shining. There he is. Here's Johnny. Yeah, like I've said a few times, not a massive buyer of steelbooks, but if I see a steelbook on the shelf, kind of the same price as what the normal Blu-ray is, or 4K or whatever, then I will always choose a steelbook, I guess, just a bit more collectible. Yeah, it's a nice still, but yeah, sure, everybody knows about The Shining. I'm not going to say too much about it, but it does really play on the isolation well. A lot of it is in the hotel, but you're kind of aware whilst they're trapped in there what the weather's like outside. There's a bit in the hedge maze. Shame it doesn't show me a picture. Let me check. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a harrowing scene, but it kind of makes me laugh a bit when you see Jack Nicholson's face all like just completely frozen and frost on his eyebrows. I think that's been used in memes for like, oh, I'm waiting for the bus 1 hour, then it will show that picture. Yeah, the isolation, one of the best characters. A lot of people have a problem with Shelley Duvall's acting in this. I never have. I think Kubrick was really mean to her on set, like screamed at her and made her cry to get like the right shots, which is quite brutal. Iconic in every single way. Amazing music. Yeah, for me, this is the best intro of any film I've ever seen. Not just for the way it looks, but the way they filmed it. I guess it's before drones. I'm guessing they used a helicopter, but basically the family car is winding up the mountain through these long roads, amazing views and vistas. It's playing that creepy. I always thought the soundtrack to this sounds weird, kind of sounds a bit like seagulls and things, makes it a bit creepier. But yeah, it's basically panning, showing like the mountain as they're driving up. Yeah, just an absolutely breathtaking intro, genuinely creepy. I'm not going to go on about The Shining. Everybody knows about it. Very iconic. But yeah, for me, I guess I should have said, so this is top 5. Yeah, obviously I've not really been counting them or anything. Where usually I do a top 10, and I know I've got 10, it's easy. But yeah, that'll be... Oh, hang on. I've messed up the order, so sorry. That was number 5, Batman Returns. Number 4 was Misery. Number 3 was The Revenant. Number 2 is The Shining. And then number 1, I'm sure this isn't a spoiler, it's kind of like, is it even worth doing this video? Because everybody's going to know what number 1 is, so I won't talk about it too long. Also, this video's almost getting on for 45 minutes. It's John Carpenter's The Thing. Not just a brilliant film and a good location, but yeah, they utilise it so well. You feel the isolation, you feel the paranoia, bits where they're running through the snow, bits when they're outside in the freezing cold, and McCready comes in through the door, and you can just see how cold it is out there. Brilliant soundtrack, brilliant cinematography. Yeah, obviously it's my favourite film ever, so for me it's a 10 out of 10 flawless film. But if it was a bit like, say, The Shining, where it shows the snow but it's not a heavy character in it, then maybe I wouldn't have put it top, even though it's a favourite. But it does go there with the Antarctic location. They're stranded, like it says, snow-blasted wilds of Antarctica. You can really feel the cold, you can feel the isolation, you can feel the paranoia. If it was, yeah, a bit like Whiteout, where it's just kind of a bit of a thriller going on in the snow, it would be impressive. But then add a alien into the mix that can, replicate people, but basically anyone can be the alien and you don't know. It adds ambiguity. adds multiple watches. Like I said earlier, brilliant special effects that the prequel remake of the thing, whatever you want to call it, couldn't achieve. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. I mean, you can look at the front cover and see that little base in the Arctic. You can see the Parker and that on the front cover. They're all wearing their Parker. Yeah, just you really do feel like the cold. Obviously, there's a lot of ambiguity. People say, I think John Carpenter said, there's clues as to whether people's got cold steam coming out, whether they're the thing, whether they've got eye shine. So the film I've watched the most ever and can just keep on watching it without getting bored. Probably not that surprising. That's my favourite or the top 5. Let me know of any others you know of, or yeah, I guess I'll get round to watching Nosferatu, the original. I'll just show you it. FW Murnau, and then I will watch Snowpiercer if that's quite heavy on the snow. Guess by the name it is, but like I say, it could just be set in a train for 2 hours and a few scenes you see out the window, and that's it as far as the snow goes. Whereas I want to see people actually crawling through the snow. Yeah, I think that's everything I got to say on these kind of films. I don't think there's any I've overlooked, but yeah, comments will probably write me if I'm wrong. Hopefully everyone's enjoyed that. It's a sunny day today, but it is getting towards winter. Be October soon. Well, I guess it's autumn, isn't it? But in the Antarctic, it snows for 6 months of the year, so technically it's winter there. Right, that's it. Thank you everybody for watching. Goodbye.